Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Andrew Kaufman. Today, June 15th, I'm bringing you a special message and an introduction. So, let me ask some questions. What exactly is going on in the world right now? We seem to be experiencing an easing of the restrictions, a return to travel and tourism, just in time for the summer sun, when we can all take a deep breath, a sigh of relief, relax, and enjoy our friends and family and recreation once again, unhindered by fear tactics and oppression. But will this situation last? Well, first, let me say I think it's important to take advantage of it while it is present and to really express gratitude about what you have and who you have in your life. And that's something that will help in good times and bad, and is really a necessary human ingredient to life. So please do express some of that gratitude and enjoy the summer weather and the solstice. But in reality, we have a temporary situation because this is only part of a larger agenda. And we have certainly seen the pattern of changing policies, of easing up and clamping down, and it correlates with the seasonal pattern. And if we look at the tyranny going on in the lockdowns in China right now, and of course, what is been going on in Australia, we still have cause for concerns that these problems have not gone away, but will come back when the weather changes. But in addition to that, we have some bigger issues in the world going on right now, all part of this larger agenda that I'll get to in a moment. So we are now all informed about the significant inflation to the US dollar and to many other currencies. In fact, some are worse than the dollar. And we've all been noticing a creeping up of prices for all consumer products and services, but especially in food and most recently in fuel prices. And of course, this is a very worrisome sign and already causing a lot of difficulty for people who are living on the financial margins. We are starting to see the end result of supply chain disruptions, and these are in different sectors, including energy, technology, and of course, food. And these are, of course, by design and by plan, and there are many reasons that these supply chains have been disrupted, primarily due to the operation of the COVID pandemic, but also many other things, such as all of the fires and food manufacturing plants and distribution centers, for example. We also have a significant bubble in the real estate markets where prices have risen far beyond the means of most first-time homebuyers and other middle-class Americans and people abroad of limited and moderate means, essentially the bourgeois class. And of course, this can't last. We have an impending debt crisis with rising interest rates. And this is, of course, a reaction of the central banks to inflation. And it's unclear if they really want to battle inflation or if they really are going to let inflation go crazy. And of course, we don't know what might happen in terms of the US dollar not continuing to be the reserve currency, which is also something that is possible in the future. So with the rates rising, the banks will tighten down on credit and people will not be able to borrow or spend money beyond their limited means. And of course, since this will hurt the overall economy, there's likely to be more unemployment and lower salaries. So this will be very difficult on everyday men and women. And all of these policies are purposeful with the inflation is due to a whole string of different policy changes, including establishing a Federal Reserve banking system and a fiat monetary system, as well as decoupling from the gold standard. But most recently, the policy of printing endless trillions of dollars taken as debt to the United States government is unsustainable. And of course, the principal reason for this inflation, and it was done on purpose by policy, instead of letting competition and capitalist market forces drive what happens in business. So what is this agenda that I'm alluding to that is being carried out in all these different sectors? Of course, that we came to this through the health sector, but this is known by many names. The World Economic Forum seems to be a central player and has very close ties to many other international organizations, including the United Nations, and their leader has coined it the Great Reset, as I'm sure you all know. And recently we have seen some of the talks and discussions at the Davos conference of that organization, where we see deeper into their agenda and plans to control humanity, to change the entire financial, banking, and economic system worldwide in order to deal with so-called climate change issues and many, many other looming policies that would mean the demise of individual freedom and sovereignty. So what's coming next? What are the type of things that are likely to see in the near future? Well, of course, I can't predict everything, but many of these things are spoken about and are very likely to come about. And one of those is the return of vaccine passes or some other kind of health passes as a way to get access to things and travel. And of course, this will be morphed with a social credit system, which, as I understand from recent whistleblowers from Silicon Valley technology industry, that they already have social credit scores, even for people in the United States, but they have not unveiled it or given us access to that information yet. So this is coming. We will certainly see more epidemics and pandemics. Right now, they're threatening to make a monkeypox scare, and several governments have bought many millions of dollars worth of vaccines, experimental, of course, to combat a potential monkeypox outbreak. We've also seen the bird flu affect the food supply chain falsely through, of course, the fraudulent PCR test being used to cull chickens instead of harvesting them for food as intended. We are going to see climate-based restrictions to our freedom. As I mentioned, it's been openly talked about with all the international bodies and organizations. And of course, the ultimate scare of this issue is that CO2 or carbon being the evil gas that we must get rid of, that is exactly what each and every one of us produce every time we exhale. And at some point, is there going to be a tax on our breath? Are we going to be restricted from exercise because it causes us to metabolize too much and release too much carbon dioxide? So these are serious questions to consider. We're going to see famine. In fact, we already are in many developing countries, such as Sri Lanka, where we recently saw a rebellion against the government as a result of food shortages. We're seeing similar issues in Iran and several other countries. And this is also because of the intentional supply chain and agricultural disruptions. As we've seen, ranchers and farmers talk about how government programs have led to them or have incentivized them destroying their crops and culling their herds so that that food never gets to the people to feed them. And of course, there is an impending economic crash. Some people are calling it a recession. It could be a depression. According to the global empire authorities, they want to completely reset the economic system. So there would have to be some strong devastation in order to bring that about. And I think that is likely where we are headed. And we're seeing the early serious stages of that now. So what can we do? Because this message is certainly not intended to be one of doom and gloom. I think that it's important we take a perspective of reality and be aware of what's going on and what are the plans so that we can be prepared on how we're going to deal with the situation, how we're going to help other people recognize what's going on, and how we're going to manage the transition when these policies and protocols get enacted and when people are faced with it right in their face. So firstly, what we can do is we can obtain knowledge and empower our own health and vitality. And of course, that is the overarching goal and mission of everything I do, and why I'm here talking to you today. We must resist every tyrannical policy. We must never comply, no matter how inconvenient it is, no matter what the risk, because at some point it may even involve the risk to our life. But it is crucial that we resist when we know we are facing evil. And you can know this by your intuition, and you can know this through your study and knowledge of natural law. But if these policies are intended to take away your freedom to choose about your own body and your own behavior and your own life, or if they're intended to cause you any kind of harm, then certainly this gives you the absolute right to make your own decision. And in fact, it's the responsibility that you have to yourself. We also must build our own parallel system, society, not one that's exclusive, one that is open to anyone who is willing to live in a cooperative and truthful manner. And each of you can start in your own community by finding the right people and starting to plan and build relationships, networks, and collaborations. Of course, we also need to build a new medical infrastructure and a new paradigm of health and healing, one that's based in the truth, one that has the real intention of helping people live healthy and productive lives, not one that seeks to gain profit at the expense of people's health, not one that makes people dependent on it, one that empowers people to take charge of their own healing. So, don't forget to drink your water. So I want to unveil my plan and what my current efforts are toward our common goals as I've outlined. So one is I will, of course, continue to conduct as unbiased and in-depth research as I can on the most important topics and share my findings, observations, and analysis with everyone to help inform them and challenge them to also look into these matters and find the real truth. I will continue to be calm, rational, and logical in my approach to evaluate the truth in medical science and practice. I'll use my intuition as a gauge of the sincerity of my own analysis to make sure I'm not exaggerating things. I'm not, having other motives like to make myself look good and to make money and things like that, but really just to get at the truth and let those other things come if the message that I have is important, but not be things that I seek or allow to bias my opinions and analysis. I'll be encouraging men and women to act as free individuals and to stand up against all tyranny. I will urge physicians out there to consider the harm of the allopathic system within which they practice. Remember, it is your duty to recognize the harm that you may be causing to your patients. This violates your oath, and it's your duty to learn the true art of healing, of natural healing. And I will be available to offer educational and training opportunities and media to all physicians who recognize the need to shift to this new paradigm and to reignite their integrity as a healing professional. I will gather the leaders in natural healing and in the new biology, the scientists, the healing practitioners, the savants, and I will gather them to present their knowledge and their research findings to this community in a way that's understandable to the common man and woman without having to resort to jargon and elitism. When requested, I will travel whenever possible, anywhere in the world, if it's allowed, to educate and interact with other sovereign men and women in solidarity against the global empire. I will continue to create and expand projects like Terrain the Film and my new series of workshops, the Terrain Workshops. I'll continue to oppose the scientifically flawed model of germ theory, and that's what the film Terrain sets out to do and accomplishes. It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's the introduction so that you can get on a path of true discovery and knowledge regarding health, because this is the information that I provide for you to get you launched on your journey to freedom and truth. All you have to do is make a commitment to do a little bit of work and to learn. Take in the truth like a sip of the finest spirits. To expand this message, this weekend, I'll be offering a free screening of my film Terrain for 48 hours, and it will include 14 languages. We have gone to get these translations so that we can get this message out, because it needs to be seen and heard worldwide. Healing your terrain begins at home with you and your family. Healing the world begins with each individual man and woman. We need to make sure as many of us as possible and other people out there will see this film and take the first steps towards truth, justice, and freedom. I want you to know that you are not alone in this struggle, this quest, this mission. If we come together and share this knowledge, if we build our communities, if we build our parallel society and infrastructure based upon truth, love, and cooperation, then we will be ready. We will be prepared. We will face head-on whatever comes in our future, together, in solidarity. Thank you for being part of my community. Please enjoy the screening of Terrain.